Sitting outside with a sea of blue hyacinths lapping at my feet, the breeze resting on my hands as light as a bird, and the sun glinting through the bottom of a glass of lemonade, throwing a star of light over our faded lawn chairs, all helps me forget every ache and worry, leaving it to the wind. Welcome to Games in the Glade, a stress-free gaming news and reviews podcast. I am your host, Tina Kelly, and I'll be guiding you through some recent news in the gaming world, as well as telling you a bit about a game I've been playing lately. Today I'll be discussing the outcome of some fundraising events hosted by game companies to assist in the humanitarian efforts in Ukraine, what's new on Xbox in April, a few new games from the creator of Hypnospace Outlaw, a new game in the Monkey Island franchise, the sequel to the VR game Moss, and a few good goofs from April Fool's Day. I'll also cover some news from Sony Interactive Entertainment, the news of a Kingdom Hearts sequel, the updated release timeline of the sequel to Breath of the Wild, and an overview of the Game Developers Conference Awards. Finally, I'll get to what women in gaming inspired you the most, tell you about my latest obsession with TUNIC, and finish up by asking you what the best food is from video games. Let's start with a brief update about the current gaming-related fundraising for humanitarian efforts in Ukraine. According to a tweet from the official Fortnite Twitter account, the Fortnite community and Xbox cooperatively raised $144 million with an M US dollars for direct relief, UNICEF, the World Food Program, the UN Refugee Agency, and World Central Kitchen to benefit the people affected by the war in Ukraine. That is a staggering amount of money going to a great cause, and I just love hearing about what good we as gamers can do, so congrats to everybody involved. Next up, speaking of Xbox, here's what's available in April if you've got a Game Pass subscription. Cricket 22 and MLB The Show 22 are available right now via cloud and console. Chinatown Detective Agency, Dragon Age 2, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare, and Star Wars Squadrons came to the cloud already on April 7th. And on the day this episode releases, April 12th, you'll get access to Life is Strange True Colors, Panzer Corps 2, and the Dungeon of Naheulbeuk for PC. Lastly, Lost in Random, a gothic fairy tale inspired action-adventure, will be coming April 14th to cloud, console, and PC. Now, because MLB The Show 22 is coming to Game Pass, on April 18th, MLB The Show 21, as well as Rain on Your Parade, The Long Dark, Pathway, and F1 2019 will be leaving. Thanks to Megan Spur for her article, Coming Soon to Xbox Game Pass, over on the Xbox Game Pass blog. I will leave a link to that article in the description of this episode. No More Robots, the publisher of tons of fantastic games like Hypnospace Outlaw, has just announced a new game in the Hypnospace universe, Dream Settler, an internet and private eye simulation game. Its predecessor had you act as an administrator in an online service that folks browsed and contributed to in their sleep. And the sleep time service returns in Dream Settler, bringing to life an alternate history version of 2003. What's this alternate version of 2003 like? It's probably filled with the same dorky teens, edgy hackers, and community-seeking adults of our 2003, but people also got really into Czech animation instead of Japanese animation. In Hypnospace, there was a subgenre of music called cool punk that was remixed Christmas songs spliced with commercial jingles for a soda brand, so I really look forward to seeing how the music scene has progressed in Dream Settler. Hypnospace Outlaw took place, I believe, sometime in the late 90s, and this being the early 2000s, so I think we're in for a treat. No More Robots is also publishing Slayers X, Terminal Aftermath, Vengeance of the Slayer, an intentionally crusty 90s first-person shooter developed by the in-fiction edgelord from Hypnospace Outlaw, Zane_Rocks_30. Zane's antics got him banned from Sleeptime forums in the events of Hypnospace Outlaw, but it looks like his bad boy attitude and passion for bespoke webcomics has been fueled into a Doom clone. On Twitter, Hypnospace creator Jay Tholin has been brewing up this game for a while. He said in tweets past that he wants to funnel Zane's material and emotional poverty into a game that reflects how class can affect game development, even down to designing maps based on how Zane might imagine high-class spaces that he's never visited. I think that's a very interesting angle to take for a character who might otherwise have been a throwaway. Sadly, I can't play FPS games myself because I get motion sickness, but I hope there's lots of fun details in the new side game. And I also look forward to checking out Dream Settler too. I'll leave links to Dream Settler and Slayer's X, etc., in the description of this episode. If news of Hypnospace's point-and-click detective adventures has you hungry for more point-and-click games, I've got good news. On April 4th, Lucasfilms Games announced that the Monkey Island franchise has got a new sequel, Return to Monkey Island. Rob Gilbert tweeted about the exciting news, sharing that he's been working with Dave Grossman on the project for 2 years now, and that the two seem to have picked up where they left off with Monkey Island 1 and 2, LeChuck's Revenge. The entry will be published by Devolver Digital this year, although the exact release date is uncertain. Now, I never personally played the Monkey Island games as a kid, although I think a lot of people my age have a fondness for point-and-click adventures. Maybe it's worth a playthrough to see what all the excitement is about. If you'd like to watch the announcement trailer for Return to Monkey Island, I will link that in the description of this episode. Moss, the single-player VR action-adventure puzzle game about a little mouse who communicates through sign language, has got a sequel, Moss Book 2. Polyarc Incorporated announced the sequel on March 31st, clarifying that the game is available on PSVR, though there's no news yet on whether it will be available later on other VR platforms. The game will follow Quill the mouse on her adventures through a perilous castle as she strives to end the merciless rule of the arcane. I keep forgetting that Moss is a VR game. I just love the idea of helping out a little mouse along her adventures, and I was really thrilled watching the development of the original game. Sadly, I cannot play any VR games myself because of first-person motion sickness and also the cost of the technology, but if anybody out there has tried this game or is looking forward to the sequel, please let me know. If you want to learn more about Moss Book 2, I'll link the games page in the description. April Fool's Day can be a rough time for gamers looking for news, with beloved titles getting joke reboots, fan-favorite DLC characters being falsely teased, and neat gadget prototypes being shown and then thrown away. But if you've got a good sense of humor and a sturdy set of media literacy skills, April Fool's Day can be fun. Here's a roundup of the interesting, clever, and cute pranks that companies in gaming pulled this year. The folks at Innersloth joked on April Fool's Day last year that they would release a special game mode where everything in Among Us would be the same, except for that your little creatures in spacesuits would be horses. It's taken a year to bring this beautiful dream to life, and it lasted only a day, so far as I know, but I'm sure it was worth to see every crew member with 2 extra legs, sometimes trampling each other to death. Twitch launched 5 fake categories to stream to on their live stream platform on April Fool's Day, including Pizza Time, a category in which streamers and chatters can eat pizza, discuss pizza, debate pizza protocol, and throw pizza through their roofs. Let's just hope this category won't be used to rehash tired debates on pineapple on pizza, because I don't know if anybody cares anymore. There was also the character creation category, which I feel like should be a real category, considering how long it takes me to design any character in a Souls game. In those games, for instance, I tried to make my character look like a standalone, original, cool character, completely separate from myself. In MLB The Show, however, I've remade characters from games like Geralt of Rivia or Raiden from the Metal Gear franchise. Or sometimes I just make a weird little guy, like Abe, Cookie Bucket, Blinken. He's fun. And weird. Lastly, I was kicking myself after the category of chores, odd jobs, and errands launched because I had just finished cleaning my kitchen and doing dishes for a few hours, and I was like, dang, that's content. But it got me thinking that with my streaming cart, I could technically pop on earlier in the day and stream dishes and other chores in the just chatting section to keep folks company while they do their chores too. Just an idea, of course. And finally, for the April Fool's Roundup, the holiday knows no bounds, no dividing lines. Even in Japan, they celebrate the Prankster's Day. Sonic's official Japanese Twitter account tweeted out that there would be a collector's edition for Sonic Frontiers, the open-world Sonic game currently in development. This collector's edition would include a wooden bath bucket, a Sonic printed towel, a waterproof Sega Genesis, a non-waterproof Game Gear, and a rubber ducky. Fun as this bundle sounds, it is a joke, of course, but I do wonder what's really in store for Sonic Frontiers. Thanks to CC Jiang at Kotaku for the information on Sega's April Fool's Day prank. I will link that article in the description of this episode. My little doggy is whining. The babies. E3 will not be back this year, cutting both their digital and in-person portions of the entertainment event that usually showcases the latest that gaming has to offer. Instead, the Entertainment Software Association, which runs E3, hopes to return in 2023 with, quote, a reinvigorated showcase that celebrates new and exciting video games and industry innovations. E3 was the biggest entertaining gaming news event when I was young, and it's how I learned about what new games were coming out. With E3 gone for 2022, there's a vacuum certainly in the video games media conferences. Almost immediately after the E3 announcement, that vacuum was filled with a cheerful and cheeky announcement from Jeff Keighley that the Summer Game Fest will return in June with gaming news, announcements, and first looks into what's coming down the pipeline. So at least there will be one big show to turn to for gaming news, although I personally will also be watching the Wholesome Direct this summer for news on overlooked but cute and fun games that are headed our way. You can learn more about the Summer Game Fest by going to summergamefest.com, and you can also read the Entertainment Software Association's full announcement by checking out the link in the description to their news post. Some big PlayStation news for y'all. Sony has announced that they are combining the PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now subscription services into a 3-tiered subscription service. The first tier is the PlayStation Plus Essential tier, with all the benefits that you currently enjoy with PlayStation Plus, including 2 monthly downloadable games, exclusive discounts, cloud storage for saved games, and online multiplayer access. It costs the same as an old subscription to PS Plus, which is $10 a month or $60 a year. Now their extra tier is on top of that, which combines everything from the Essential tier and adds to that 400 PS4 and PS5 games, including PlayStation Studios games and also third-party games. These games are downloadable for play, and this tier sits at $15 a month or $100 a year. Finally, the Premium Plus tier has all of that and 340 more games, including PS3 games with cloud streaming and classics from the PS1, PS2, and PSP. You also get cloud streaming access for PS1, 2, 4, and PSP games for the PS4, PS5, and PC. And lastly, this tier includes game trials, so you can test some things out before purchasing them. This tier sits at $18 a month or $120 a year. Off the top, some of the titles that will be accessible with the extra tier and above include Death Stranding, God of War, Marvel Spider-Man and Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, Mortal Kombat 11, and Returnal. If you already have PlayStation Now, you'll be transitioned to PS Plus with no increase to your current fees in June, which is when the subscription service fully relaunches. If you want to lay eyes on the announcement yourself, I'll include a link to the PlayStation official blog post about it in the description of this episode. And continuing the PS Plus news, if you've got PS Plus in April, you have access to a few games this month, including Hood, Outlaws, and Legends, an online multiplayer heist game. Also this month you have access to SpongeBob SquarePants: The Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, which is a platformer starring everyone's favorite sea sponge. Finally, Say the Spire is available on PS Plus, the roguelike fantasy deck builder. One last word. PS Plus subscribers will need to download Persona 5 by May 11th if you'd like to keep the game as long as you have your PS Plus membership. It'll otherwise be leaving the subscription service by that date. If you'd like to read more about each title available this month and also leaving this month, check out Adam McKell's article on the PlayStation blog, which I will link in the description of this episode. It's the 20th anniversary of Kingdom Hearts. I remember being a little kid reading my Prima Guide to Kingdom Hearts in the basement with my brother as we tried to find all 99 Dalmatians scattered throughout the game. It was such a magical experience to journey through this new and strange world that combined my favorite Disney characters with my brother's favorite Final Fantasy characters. And now, 20 years later, I've still got a few Kingdom Hearts games to work through. I haven't beat Dream Drop Distance yet, and I haven't even touched Kingdom Hearts 3, but here comes another game on the horizon. I'm talking, of course, about Kingdom Hearts Missing Link, an MMO phone game with a beta test coming in 2022. Oh, and also Kingdom Hearts 4, which stars Sora as the reprising protagonist, awoke in a world that looks very much like our own, but now it's flooded from the heartless of his world. I'm not sure why I'm hesitant to admit this, but the game looks really gorgeous, and the combat looks very fun, with Sora scaling buildings and parkouring his way over to a towering heartless that threatens the city of Quadratum. I'm not sure why the trailer ends with Goofy and Donald wandering around in the dark, with a blue flame with Hades' voice from Hercules ringing out and frightening them. I'm just going to assume that those two died or something and went to heck. And so now they're trying to probably get out of it. Either way, this game looks really pretty, and I'm actually excited to see where the Kingdom Hearts story goes next. Oh, and let it be said that I am hoping that Kingdom Hearts 4 pulls a Metal Gear Solid 2 and has you play as Sora for one mission, and then somebody else for the rest of the game. Although I guess they already did do that with Kingdom Hearts 2, didn't they? Still, I thought that Sora's story was over, but I guess there's still more for him to do yet. If you'd like to watch the trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4, I'll link that in the description of this episode. Next up, a note for Zelda fans. Eiji Aonuma, the lead series producer of The Legend of Zelda, made a special announcement regarding the release of Breath of the Wild 2, saying that the game will need a little bit more time to develop. Originally slated for 2022, Aonuma said that they're anticipating now a spring 2023 release, apologizing to fans and promising that the team is working very hard on crafting a new and interesting experience. Now, I'm not personally bothered by delays because there's always something else to play, and I would rather play a finished good game than a rough, rushed game. So please take your time, Nintendo. If you'd like to watch the launch update announcement, I will link that in the description of this episode. Lastly, for the news, every year at the Game Developers Conference, there is an award ceremony by and for game developers celebrating the best games of the previous year. At the Game Developers Choice Awards this year, several games that I have reviewed were up for acknowledgement for greatness, including Witchbeam's Unpacking, which was the Zen puzzle game with the interactive narrative, which won Best Audio as well as the Innovation Award, and also Inscription, the deck-building roguelike genre bender, which won Game of the Year. That's pretty impressive. Other games with accolades include Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which won Best Visual Art and also Best Technology. Iron Gate Studio won Best Debut for their work with Valheim, the Norse-inspired survival game, which also won the Audience Award selected through a public vote. Psychonauts 2 won Best Narrative, and It Takes Two won Best Design. And finally, Boyfriend Dungeon won the brand new Social Impact Award for advancing intersectionality, equality, justice, and/or sustainability. The Game Developer Choice Awards also honor individuals who advance the field of games with their work, and this year they selected Steven Spawn for their Ambassador Award. His passion for making games accessible to everyone is inspiring. I first heard Steven discuss accessibility on the Besties, and his stories of bringing games to everyone, no matter what their needs might be, fired me up so much. It got me thinking about what accessibility aids I need and the features I need in order to enjoy games, and it made me want to talk more about those features with my community. I think understanding access and technology when it comes to games is life-changing because even if you have no need for those aids, if you're a real gamer, you want other people to play the games you love. And sometimes they require extra features or accessibility options to do that. I think Steven's love for games and his passion for progress is absolutely contagious, so congratulations to him on the acknowledgement. Also awarded this year was Yuji Horii, the creator of the Dragon Quest franchise. Horii shaped the genre of role-playing games with Dragon Quest I way back in 1986, and to this day the franchise remains the defining pillar of JRPGs. Horii's work earned him the Lifetime Achievement Award this year, so congratulations to him. If you'd like to read more about the winners of this year's Game Developers Choice Awards, please visit the Game Developers Conference blog, which I have linked in the description. Last episode, I asked you all who your favorite protagonist was from a video game who is a woman. There are so many cool gals in games that don't get the shine that they deserve, so this time I am highlighting all of your responses. Here we go. Starting off, Chain Snake said that his favorite woman in games is the Boss, the inspirational and conflicted woman of Metal Gear Solid 3. The Boss changed the world with her life and deeds, inspiring generations in the Metal Gear Solid franchise. Snake said that her views on loyalty and purpose, and the lengths to which she went to defend those views, was inspirational to him. And while he says that his personal views may differ from hers, it was her way of thinking and her resiliency that got him through some very difficult times. So very cool. Slurm316 said that he has a few women who inspire him. Ellie from The Last of Us 2, whose journey into adulthood had him in awe, and similarly Clementine from The Walking Dead, a Telltale series. Clementine was a very popular pick, by the way. They both wowed him with their developments as characters. Both women make some very hard decisions and face unimaginable difficulties, including zombies, on their paths, but they have so many admirable qualities that pull them through these tough situations. Quantum Witcher said that Senua from Hellblade has inspired him, saying that her portrayal in the game was one of the best designed and best executed characters he's ever seen. Accompanying her on her journey through myth and mental demons was a revolutionary experience for him. I think characters like Senua, Clementine, Ellie, and the Boss really capture the grit that women possess uniquely, while also showing off how much they care for things that matter to them. Kaino Paigan said that his favorite women in games include Yuna from Final Fantasy X, who some might see as weak because she is very soft-spoken, but whom he says is one of the strongest women in the series. I'd have to agree. Sending souls from this world to the next, especially the souls you cherish the most, must be really difficult. Kaino also said that he wants to include Estelle from Trails in the Sky, who he says is fun, spunky, and goofy, but wields a bow staff so she can back up those jokes of the fights. You know, women don't always have to be serious to be inspiring, and I think characters who have a strong sense of humor or a lot of heart can be a great example for others too. Jay Dizzle said that Samus Aran from the Metroid series was his favorite woman in video games. The first female protagonist in a major game release, kicking butt and blasting aliens in a hostile environment, Samus was definitely somebody for me to look up to as a youngling. Plus, I would literally have to look up to her because she is super tall, and I am 5'4", and I just had the thought out in the garden the other day that I really will not be getting any taller anytime soon. But a girl can dream, and in my dreams I am Samus Aran. Insel Pencil on Twitter said that they had a ton of faves, including Metal Gear Solid 3's The Boss, which Snake outlined earlier, Princess Zelda and Sheik from The Legend of Zelda, FemShep, which is the community name given to the female character you can play as in Mass Effect, Clementine from The Walking Dead, which Slurm316 outlined earlier, Elizabeth from Bioshock Infinite, and Tiny Tina from the Borderlands franchise, including her new standalone tabletop-esque game. That is a lot, but it's just scratching the surface, honestly, Gab. This is a broad swatch of characters to choose from, too, from firecrackers like Tiny Tina to mysterious rogues like Sheik. Just who could that masked ninja be? Graceleberry Pie said that her gaming inspiration will always be Lara Croft from the Tomb Raider series, remarking that Lara was the first female protagonist that she felt had a sense of autonomy. She was sexy, she had an attitude, and she had passions of her own. Grace felt that Shelley Bond, I apologize, the original voice actress for Laura, helped bring her personality to life. I think that Laura's right up there with Samus Aran in the constellation of kick-butt women from early video games, so great pick, Grace. Okay, last but not least, Lowell Kristen wanted to raise up another Final Fantasy X character, Riku, who she feels like gets overlooked. Kristen pointed out that Riku is able to put up with Waka, who is a racist bonehead, is an Albed princess but doesn't make a big deal about it, goes against her own people's customs and religion to help her cousin out and her friends, and helps out the main character, Titus, but we call him Titus here, when he is lost. And to that, I'd like to add that she's also fluent in 2 languages and can switch between them on the fly. I can't even speak English properly, and I have a master's degree in it, so in this house we support a bilingual queen. So thank you so much to everybody for weighing in on your favorites. I really hope we get to see more great women in games as time goes by, especially with more women making games. Usually this is the part of the show where I review the latest game I've played that I think you'll like, but I'm at a bit of a crossroads. I haven't beaten a new game yet. I started Tunic a few weeks ago and I haven't been able to think of anything else ever since. I think of it while I work outside in the yard, I think about it in the kitchen when I'm making dinner, and after playing Tunic for about 6 hours on stream, I think about it again in bed before I drift off to sleep. I'm obsessed with the game, and I haven't even beaten it yet. See, Tunic combines everything weird and niche that I'm wild about in games. Touches of tangible nostalgia, limited verbal communication, and layered narratives. I'll touch on these today, and then we'll do the real review in the next episode. So, nostalgia. So many games wield nostalgia like a cudgel, which isn't bad. Cudgels are great tools for what you need them to do, which is bonk things over the head. But Tunic's nostalgia hits a very specific vein and taps it deeply. It doesn't just look like games that I've played before. It of course does resemble The Legend of Zelda in its aesthetic. You're a cute little fox in a green tunic, and you wield a sword and you collect Triforce-like hexagons. But Tunic feels like old games that I've played before in a more tangible, tactile way. A major part of the game is collecting pages of an in-game manual, which has clues as to what you're supposed to do next in the game. The manual has a dot printer-like look, as if you could hold it up to your eyes, which you can do if you zoom in, and see every little flaw in the printing, every dot that changes the hue or the shade of the enemy that is named and described in the manual. And you're also, this is such a cute touch, not the first person to read this particular manual either. Somebody else has had this copy before you, and they leave their own notes throughout the margins in a crummy ballpoint blue ink pen. It's great. Tunic invokes a core memory for me of being in the backseat of my parents' car, reading the manual to a game that my brother and I rented at Blockbuster, and learning more about the world that awaited us when we plugged in the game cartridge back at home. And that leads me to my next weird thing that I loved about Tunic. You don't need to read the manual in order to play the game, because your goals are largely communicated without written language. You see a fox that's imprisoned in a hexagonal jail, so you have to go collect hexagons in order to free them. Easy. Now, you might also learn more about that jail, or about that fox, or about the world around you by reading the manual, but you can, and many people do, beat the game without reading much of anything. Which is good, because the manual was written mostly in runes, and it took me about a week nonstop of code cracking throughout the course of the game to break down how those runes functioned as a language. If you decide to play Tunic, I would encourage you to do the same though, and look up certain runes if you need help. There's a great deal of satisfaction to be gained by looking at standalone words like fox, sword, lost, stuck, things like that, and finding out which shapes that you're looking at are making those sounds. Once I got those words down, it took maybe a day, which was like, 6 hours of a stream, to read the rest of the manual, and now I can translate the whole thing myself. Which is good, because there is a lot of lore in there that builds an incredible, fascinating world. And that's my final point about Tunic. It's a game that you can play straight and do what you're told and have a solid, enjoyable gaming experience, complete with challenges, engaging combat, and puzzles. The narrative arc of doing of what you're told, I feel, is very satisfying. But you can also start pulling at the threads, investigating secrets, little weird areas, and interacting with the world in a unique way that feels very reminiscent of retro gameplay. I don't want to spoil this aspect of Tunic, so I'll save this discussion for next episode, but I really appreciate the way that Andrew Schuldeis and the team behind Tunic made a game that could be played different ways, but still enjoyed all the same. I'll say this, having alternate paths to follow is something that many games attempt to do, but few do very well. Tunic made a solid base game and then expanded so far beyond that it feels like it's reaching through the screen to pull you in. Now, I've also been playing Norco by Geography of Robots on Game Pass, and its mystery is very intriguing to me. I absolutely want to talk more about this game in a later episode, but Tunic has me drawing maps, making notes, decoding mythology, and speaking in gibberish for all hours of the day. so I've had to kind of push Norco to the background for now. But if you would like to play a crust punk dystopian horror narrative about what is ailing Louisiana with some very stunning visuals, I think you should check out Norco too. I've been doing a lot of cooking lately, and I finally busted out my Fire Emblem Three Houses fanzine cookbook to make Immortality Stew. I do not believe it is made the immortal, but it was tasty and vegan, and it fed my whole family. Fire Emblem Three Houses has a section of gameplay where you eat meals with your students and your faculty at lunch. You take some of them out to tea, and sometimes you cook meals with them to boost the stats for everybody involved. Always the food looked so delicious. When I saw that there was a cooking zine for the game, I leapt right on it because I wanted to recreate those meals for myself. So I wanted to ask you, what game has the most memorable food? Have you ever wanted to eat a meal from a video game? Better yet, have you been inspired to make the food that you saw in a game? If you'd like to respond, you have a few options. You can respond to the tweet that I'm going to put out, or you can tweet directly at Games in the Glade on Twitter using the GITGasks hashtag, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can leave a comment below the video. That is all I have for you today. There'll be more news and reviews every other week, so keep an eye out for updates in your favorite podcatcher or on YouTube, and follow the show's Twitter account at Games in the Glade for more. This podcast is supported by Friends of the Forest on Patreon, a link for which I will leave in the description. Thanks to Puddles of Infinity for the use of their song, Porsches, and Universes, and thanks to Titsay for the beautiful album art. And even though our time together is coming to an end, you can always find your way back here, my world-worn weary friend. There's a spot here in the clearing, in the quietude and shade, for you to relax a while and listen to Games in the Glade. Bye, everybody.